Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know some people are still coming in, but I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Elise Tournier. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at ChargePoint, and I'm excited for today to host today's customer spotlight. So I've had the pleasure of working closely with the Monterey-Salinas Transit team on their EV charging program. And today I'm going to walk you through some of the reasons that fleets are going electric and the positive impact that they are seeing on their business. I'm also really thrilled to be joined today by none other than Monterey-Salinas Transit Chief Operating Officer, Norman Tutivaki. So today we are going to take a closer look at their transit and how they've deployed and managed their EV charging program. So they can meet mandate and hit their goals. So, of course, we'll dig into the impact that EV charging has had on their business overall, and we will have some Q&A as well if you have any questions to Norman. So just before we get started, here is a quick look of our agenda today. So first, we will talk about why transit fleets are electrifying and the benefits of going electric. Then I will turn it over to Norman, who is going to walk you through Monterey-Salinas Transit EV journey and how they manage their program. After that, I'm going to briefly share how ChargePoint partners with customers at every stage, from hardware and software to services, station branding, incentive support, etc. And finally, we'll wrap up with Q&A, where we will answer as many questions as we can. So for questions, you'll see the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen, or under the widget button if you are joining us from a mobile device. Feel free to submit questions at any time. We will get to them at the end of the presentation. And if you want to have any more information, we have additional resources under the Doc tab that you will also find on the right of your screen. So to get started, let's take a quick look at who we are. So ChargePoint was founded in 2007, and today we have over 1,400 employees worldwide. We are deeply embedded in the enterprise, with 82% of Fortune 50 companies being actually ChargePoint customers. And we've also built integrations with 14 major auto manufacturers, so the drivers can actually get a seamless experience right from the vehicle. Some of the data as well, we have today over 400 million charges delivered to date, and we are still counting. And there are almost 400,000 places to charge on the ChargePoint network across North America and Europe. And through roaming integration with other major networks, ChargePoint account holders can actually access almost 1 million additional charging locations, all from one single account. So all of that just means something, which is that we are not just a charging company, we are really the connective tissue of the EV charging ecosystem altogether. But to set the stage about fleets, I want to share quickly why transit fleets are embracing EV charging today. And it really comes down to three things. So first is the cost. Electric vehicles, as you might know, significantly lower fueling cost. They require less maintenance with fewer moving parts, etc. And they also simplify your operational management. So over the life of the vehicle, the TCO advantage is significant and it compounds year over year. The second one is readiness. Today, regulatory mandates are accelerating. And the question is not really if you will need to electrify at one point, but more like when you will need to do it. So building the right infrastructure now means that you are meeting today's requirements without having to rip and replace later. So you avoid costly reinvestment and minimize operational disruption during the transition. And the last one is sustainability. So zero-emission fleets let you hit your emission targets and demonstrate a genuine sustainable leadership to the communities you actually serve. So that matters to riders, to boards, and increasingly, to federal and state funding criteria as well. So the case is really clear here. You can lower your cost, future-proof your infrastructure, and measure sustainability. Before I give the stage to Norman, I'd love to get a pulse check from our audience. And the question today is, where are you in your electrification journey? You have three different options here. The first one being researching solutions, piloting fleet electrification, and scaling existing infrastructure. So please let us know where you are and where you are and what you still need to do. I'm just going to give everyone a moment to respond, but it looks like we are seeing a lot of researching solutions, so early stage. We have some of scaling existing infrastructure, which is also something really interesting to do for us. So I think it's a pretty telling poll and evidence of the value of strategic planning here. We have people really in all of the stages. Let's give it maybe 30 more seconds for people to vote. Okay, so we have a 50-50. It's really in between. Okay, so it's really, okay, a bit fighting between the two. All right, so I think we are still like scaling existing infrastructure is the winner here, even though researching solution is really not far behind. So thank you so much all for your answers. So I think with that, we could hand it over to Norman, who will walk us through Monterey-Salinas Transit electrification journey. Welcome, Norman, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Elise. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name is Norm Tuitavuki. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Monterey-Salinas Transit District. I wanted to just quickly comment about the poll. It shows that many of us are either scaling up, many of us are trying to find the solution, and some of us already have a solution. So that's exactly where I was in the journey when I started my journey down the electrification path. So here's my presentation. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to tell you why we chose ChargePoint and why we are going electric, and then exactly why we're doing it now. Here's the agenda. So I'm going to provide a brief overview about MST, who we are, what we do. I'll go into EV charging and why we're doing EV charging. I'll talk a little bit about our EV charging program and look at our fleet. We'll look at some benefits and impacts. I'll give you some tips and best practices that I worked with and identified with my team. I'll tell you why we chose ChargePoint, and then we'll discuss future plans of my operation and what we're going to be doing. I did want to say that as a Chief Operating Officer for the Monterey-Salinas Transit District, and many leaders know this, you have to know a little bit about a lot of things. And so I know a lot of things, and I know a little bit about a lot of things. So I'm not an expert in this area, but I'm hoping that I can provide you with the best information that you need so that you can make a strong decision and help guide you down your path of electrification. So Monterey-Salinas Transit District, we are the public transit operator here in Monterey County. We provide services through 13 cities that are in Monterey County. We have a board that's made up of 13 individuals. We also connect to Santa Cruz Metro in Santa Cruz along Highway 1 in the north. On the 101 north side, we connect to Santa Clara VTA in Gilroy. And then south on the 101, we connect to the city of San Luis Obispo and to SLO RTA in the city of Paso Robles. We operate fixed route. We have paratransit services. I talked a little bit about our commuter programs, and then we also operate some other mobility services that are unique to our agency. We are committed to zero-emission fleet transition that's actually in compliance with the California Air Resources Board Innovative Clean Transit Regulation, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So why did we choose EV charging? Honestly speaking, we were looking at hydrogen and EV charging as part of our fleet electrification or fleet zero-emission bus plan. As you know, hydrogen has become a little bit less, well, a lot more expensive. And so it became less attractive to us at the moment. And so we chose to go with EV charging based on all the information that we had and the money that we had available. Also, the California Air Resources Board has implemented what they call the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation. It's the ICT regulation. It requires all California agencies, transit agencies, who operate buses, internal combustion engine buses, to move to zero emissions by 2029. So beginning in 2028, this regulation does not allow us to purchase internal combustion engine powered buses. We have to purchase zero emission buses going forward, beginning in 2028. And I've made some changes and some additions to our fleet, which I'll talk about in a later slide. Cost savings, we're looking at the cost savings between diesel and electric buses. We have compiled a lot of data, but we still have more compiling to do so that we can make a proper analysis. Obviously, community health, there are tremendous benefits with reducing emissions, especially in the corridors that we operate along. Many of the corridors that we operate along and the people that we serve live and work in disadvantaged communities. And then energy dependence, this is something that we're looking forward to, especially here in California with having wildfires and critical events that affect our ability to deliver service. If we move to a platform that's zero emission, that's mainly made up of battery electric buses, we have to have the ability to expand the network and then also couple the chargers with solar, with battery electric storage, and then also with backup generation, which is something that we're looking at. So if you think about battery electric buses, zero emission buses, if you have the ability to, or if you are required to operate a fleet of 100% zero emission buses, you have to have a backup plan. And so we're looking at additional things that we're going to be working with ChargePoint on, and that is microgrids and things like that, so that we are less exposed and affected by unplanned outages in our area. This slide speaks to our fleet. Currently, we've got 17 battery electric buses in our fleet. Back in 2018, we purchased two BYD 30-foot battery electric buses. So that was kind of our pilot. We did that for 3 years, and then we purchased two Gillig 40-foot battery electric buses back in 2021 to test their technology. Both technologies are up and running, no problems, no issues. BYD has been operating all the way to the maximum extent possible to the spec that they provided. And same with the 2021 Gillig 40-foot battery electric buses. This year, we received 13 new Gillig 40-foot battery electric buses, and those are equipped with the most battery packs that you can get. 7 battery packs totaling a total of 686 kilowatt hours. The charging infrastructure that we deployed, we've got 14 CPE ChargePoint 250s. Those are high-powered DC fast chargers that are installed across 2 different facilities in our region. We've got one facility in Salinas, and then we've got another facility in Monterey that are both equipped with those battery chargers. And then in South County later this year, we're going to be installing more chargers in our King City division. As far as depot management, the ChargePoint platform allows us to manage the loads. We plug in our battery electric buses whenever they're in the yard, and the software allows us to choose what time of day we'd like to charge and then what time of day we don't want to charge. So regardless of whether or not we have them plugged in, they don't charge until we tell them when to charge. The benefits and impact of our program is there in front of you environmentally. It's the right thing to do. Obviously, you guys know this. There are some significant CO2 and NOx reductions that happens when you transition your fleet to zero emissions. Financially, for us, we're still compiling the data. Right now, we're seeing our costs per mile cheaper than diesel right now. We hope that trend continues, but we continually measure, we collect the data, we measure, we analyze, and we're looking for ways to be as efficient as possible. Operationally, battery electric buses are way more quieter. They're easy to use, easy to drive. Once our coach operators learned how to operate those buses, we're seeing that our brake, the life of the brakes are extended tremendously. The regenerative braking, once they learn how to take advantage of that, they're really comfortable, easy to drive. They really like them a lot. Reputationally, right? MST wants to be a leader. Myself, as the chief operating officer, I want to be able to go out into the community and actually show them what I do. tell them what I'm going to do, and then do what I say I'm going to do. And then as far as data insights, we talked a little bit about that. The ChargePoint platform provides me with the ability to look in real time at my buses that are on the road that are being charged, and I'm able to glean a lot of information that I need so that I can make my operation successful. Some tips and best practices when we got started back in 2018. Um, I started here in MST back in 2017, and they had already started planning for these things like around 3 to 4 years prior to that. So back in 2013, 2014, the agency started planning. That's essential that you assess and that you plan. You conduct a depot energy audit. You can do that through uh, different sources. You can work with your utility. For me, the number one and number two most important things, and kind of go hand in hand, is working with your utility. For me, out here in Northern California, on the Central Coast of California, our energy provider is PG&E, and we engage them early. There's a lot of different programs depending on the number of chargers that you want to install and the amount of energy that you're going to consume that'll help you with the upfront costs of designing, planning, and then also of construction. Number three, pilot first. Always recommend that if you have an opportunity to pilot, do that so that you can see how the buses and how the chargers operate, so that you have a better understanding of what you need to do, how you can plan accordingly for each of the different types of technologies that you intend to employ. Number four, which is really, really important, is training your team, making sure that you have the tools and the curriculum that you need to train your operators on how to operate the bus. But not only that, what you do in an emergency, how to power down the buses. In an emergency, your maintenance people need to know that as well. So the bus is another piece of this entire fleet plan that we're going through in this fleet transition, and training is very important. Recommend that if you are engaged with the union, if you are a property that has a frontline labor union, that you partner with them early to identify different funding opportunities, and also just to let them know what you're doing and what you intend to do. And then finally, leverage funding. I know right now, federally, the funding has dried up, but there are a lot of opportunities locally that you can take advantage of in your local state as well. If you're not from California, hopefully your state has some funding programs that'll help you offset the price of infrastructure costs, and then also offset the price of purchasing a zero-emission bus. For us, we look at every opportunity to find funding. We turn over every stone so that we can reduce the price, because as you know, the price for battery electric buses and hydrogen fuel cell electric buses are tremendously expensive. And so having some type of relief and a way that you can help pay for those vehicles is always something that we're looking for. Why ChargePoint? Like I said, we chose ChargePoint. I think what happened was I started talking with some of my peers about what they were doing, and they identified ChargePoint. And then based on their recommendations, we started with a couple of ChargePoint chargers, and we installed those chargers before we even had battery electric buses that were in one of our yards. We had some vehicles that were battery electric, and we tested on those vehicles, and they seemed to be working fine. So for me, it was based on word of mouth. I had some colleagues that recommended I consider ChargePoint, and I did that. But really, throughout this whole experience, the ChargePoint experience has been great for us. They offer a cloud-based software where I can log in from any internet-enabled device. I can look at my fleet in real time. I can understand where they are. I can understand how much energy they're using. I can look at the kilowatts that they're charging at. I can stop charging. I can start charging. There's a whole bunch of data that I can glean through the ChargePoint charger platform, software platform, that'll give me some valuable insights to help me make some decisions. The other thing is reliability and support. We've experienced a 99.9% uptime with all 14 chargers. If there is a problem, we get immediately notified, whether we've seen it ourselves or they recognize it. And then they always provide 24/7 support. I can call them anytime, and typically within one business day or sooner, they'll call me back. And really, for me, our account rep has called me back, immediately, and they've helped us work through a lot of the problems that we've experienced. The other thing I want to say is that I've got a operations specialist who has a degree in, I think, in information technology, and so he's always looking at ways to take the data out of ChargePoint and develop different reports. And he's been working closely with ChargePoint to make some of these things happen. So they learn from you, and we learn from them, and it's made a better experience for me. And then here's some additional insights I wanted to provide for you guys about my future plans for electrification. So that's kind of the timeline about the things that shows the things that we've done since 2018. And then going forward, beginning in 2028, I told you about the innovative clean transit regulation. We've got to be a 100% compliance with that regulation. There are some things that we're working through right now. The California Air Resources Board understands that it's been really, really tough for public transit agencies to fully transition. And so we're working with them to do some things to help us get easier for us to comply. And then really the net goal, the goal is to go net zero beyond 2030. Have a fleet that's fully zero emission, whether it's battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell buses. We'd like to go net zero, but we want to do it in a way that makes sense to us. If we have the funding available, then we'll do it. If the cost of fuel goes down with hydrogen, then we'll dabble in that. But really, it's being smart while keeping the end in mind about being net zero sometime in the near future. That concludes my presentation. I appreciate you all being here. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I'll pass it back to Elise.
Thank you so much, Norman. That was great to hear from your experience with us. So as he said, electric fleets run on way more than just chargers, but at ChargePoint, we really want to make sure, thank you for passing the slide, that your vehicles are ready, your costs are predictable, and your depot actually scales when you do. So our teams will really partner with you every step of the way to understand your goals and tailor your operation to match your routes, your fleet size, your timeline. We'll also consult on your electrical setup, so there are no surprises when construction starts. We'll also help you choose the right hardware for your specific use case, because we know everybody has different, has different goals and different, use cases. We will install your equipment and brand your station, so they feel like part of your operation, not just a bolt-on. We will also set up your fleet management software configured and ready from day one, so you can manage everything. We will help you train your team on how to run the charging program independently. As Norman mentioned, we will monitor and support you 24/7 proactively, so we can catch issue before they affect service. And finally, we will help you find every incentive you qualify for, federal, state, utility, so you're not leaving any money on the table. So that's what we meant by more than just chargers. It's really a full partnership that you have with us, from planning through daily operations. And before we go into Q&A, we really want to make sure that you are aware that there are incentives you may qualify for. You may qualify for in your states. So, for example, in California, today there is the California Clean Fuel Reward, which gives up to $124,000 points of sale rebate per vehicle. So you can check the incentive tool in the Docs tab that you have on the right to find the incentives on your state. We do have a really nice tool on our website where you can, search per state, per type, per industry, etc., and that will help you, find the right way to maximize your business here. And with that, let's go ahead and shift into our Q&A portion and take a look at the questions that we've received so far. It looks like we have a couple of great questions. Thank you so much for all the engagement. So let's go ahead and start answering a few. Norman, for you, for people that are actually starting their fleet electrification, and as we said, so we have some. If you could go back in time to the beginning of your electrification, what would you have done differently knowing what you know now, if anything?
For me, I think I would have scoped our facilities appropriately. So knowing if I could go back in time, knowing that this regulation was coming and the requirement for us to go zero emission, I would have done all of the work up front. I would have met with the utility earlier. I would have done the site assessment earlier to understand the power that I needed so that they can get out in front of it and have the power there. It's really important that you understand whether or not you have the power available. And if you don't, understand that it could take 6 months to 3 years to get the infrastructure in place. So getting out in front of it, I think would probably be the most important for me. Working with your utility as early as possible to understand whether or not you have the available power, and if you don't, get in the queue as quickly as possible. Here in California, I've heard stories, from colleagues that are caught up in getting the power that they need anywhere from 12 months to 36 months. And so, if you think about that, you can't install the charger infrastructure that you need if you don't have the power. And if you don't have the power, and you got to find a way to get the power. And so getting into the queue with your local provider is very important.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
actually a really good point to know. Have you, still talking about like energy, have you noticed an increase of energy time to charge due to battery degradation, I guess, in
No,
your bus?
not yet. No, not yet. In my former life, I had a fleet of battery electric diesel hybrid buses, and our expectation is that we would see some degradation right around the 6-year mark. But I operated those buses 14, sometimes 14 years without any battery degradation, significant that is. So you may see like a 20% degradation over the life of the bus, but at this point, we haven't seen any.
So we talked about the buses, and what about the chargers? Who maintains them? And have you experienced any charger issues related to heat?
Nothing for heat where I'm at, but you got to understand I'm here on the central coast of California, and the hottest it gets is like 70, 75 degrees. And so I don't have um, a lot of issues with heat or anything like that. And ChargePoint, I have a full service agreement with ChargePoint. They go through and they do the upkeep on that. They make sure that my chargers are working appropriately. There are vendors who are in the area where I live that offer the same type of program as well.
Okay. Following up on that, Teresa asked, like, do you have shade structures for your chargers? But I guess not, because you don't have this problem.
Right, I do not. No. And then I did see a question in there about where my buses are stored. So because we're in California, I don't store them inside. I don't have to store them inside. All of my buses are stored outside along with their chargers. In addition to that, the question about fires, we do twice a year tabletops on thermal runways. And so we have a continuity of operations plan. We have emergency plans that are in place that'll help us deal with that. So every single person in the agency runs through that standard operating procedure. We go through, and like I said, we demonstrate a battery thermal runway. And in our yards, we have areas that the buses are restricted to, which is at least 50 feet away from any other vehicles. So we have specific places that we park vehicles, battery electric vehicles. And in the event of a fire, if it were ever to happen, we have the ability to cordon off the area and leave enough room between the vehicles so that we can deal with that appropriately.
Great. I do have a question. I'm not sure to get it, but maybe you will. Great work, Norman, first, he said. And then any thoughts on these chargers at the transit centers?
Yeah. We had looked at en route charging and how we could extend, I guess, the battery electric buses en route through en route charging. So we do have some plans. Well, let me back up. We do have plans that identified places within our system that we can add battery electric chargers.
Question about training. So you mentioned that you had to train your team. How much time did you spend training your team, and how did you decide on a training program?
So I'm the chair of the California Transit Training Consortium. It's a consortium that's made up of a bunch of member agencies throughout California, mostly public transit agencies, but also local community colleges, and then also some of our vendors. And what we do is we develop curriculum that our members can take advantage of. Through that effort, we developed and created battery electric bus training, and then we're going through and we're doing some fuel cell electric bus training as well. So the training is always first related to safety, making sure that people understand how to operate the bus safely, how to power down the buses safely, and then what to do in a safety event. The other thing that we do is we train our local emergency responders, and so once a year or once every other year, we have an open house that runs 2 days a week. It's usually in the middle of the week, like Tuesday and Wednesday, and we open our yard to all of the local emergency operators. So they come out, fire stations come out, they take a look at the buses, we get them on board our buses, we show them how to operate the buses, and then we also show them what to do in an emergency, how to power down the bus, and how to get inside the bus, how to get off the bus, things like that. And then we also show them the ChargePoint chargers. Don't necessarily show them how to plug it in and things like that, but they need to know where your chargers are just in case there's an event that occurs.
Okay, thank you. Going through the question, I see one about like the ChargePoint software and if it helps you understand actually emission reduction for sustainability reporting. Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to take this question?
Well, you can speak to it, and then I can add. Yeah.
So one of the core features of actually our software is that the platform automatically actually estimates avoided GHG emission based on the energy dispensed and provides EPA-based equivalents. So for example, like 3 gross equivalents. So it will generate automatically some dashboards and reports that will track your energy usage in kilowatt hours, megawatt hours, GHG emission reduction, and compliance data for low carbon fuel program. I don't know if you want to add anything to it, Norman, like the way you use it, the way you experience it.
Yeah. We take the reports that are baked into the system, and then we use that for our internal reports, and then also some of our external facing reports as well. But exactly everything that you said. So it'll automatically calculate some of the things that you're wanting to display and show.
Great. So you mentioned that you are going to install some new chargers in King City, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you maybe tell us more about like that and your plans for the future of your charging programs?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a project that we just kicked off in June, and I kind of followed that same plan that we talked about, right? So assess the yard, understand whether or not we have enough energy to go ahead and install, engaged PG&E early, and we're going through that right now. So they did an overall assessment. It's just a brief overview. They do an assessment using a tool that's available. I don't know if it's available publicly, but they have a tool that's available to them. They will meet with you. They met with me. They showed me an overview of our facility in King City, and then there's a graphic that shows all of the available energy to the facility. And so, based on your needs, they calculate whether or not they need to do work. And if they do need to do work, then they start scoping that work out. There's a program that they offer. I can't remember the exact name of it, but they will pay for all of the construction that it takes, all the design, all the engineering, all the construction to bring the power into your property. And then it's up to you after that to work behind the meter. So everything behind the meter after that is your responsibility, but it dramatically reduces the cost that I would have normally taken on to get me the power that I need. And so we're going through that project right now. We're going to be installing between 4 and 6 CPE 250s at that yard. And we've got some grant money that we're working through that's still available for us to purchase some battery electric buses, and then the infrastructure that we need to get battery electric buses on the road in King City.
Thank you. I see a question that I think is going to be for the both of us. So first, what is the kilowatt of the CPE 250? So the CPE 250 is a 62.5 kilowatt, and you can pair it to deliver up to 125 kilowatts to a single vehicle. And the second part of the question is, what challenges are you working through with CARB for the requirements, Norman?
Yeah, so I also sit on it's called the Zero-Emission Vehicle Task Force through the California Transit Association. I'm a member of that. MST is a member of the California Transit Association. I'm the chair of the operations committee for the CTA. And then I also sit as a member of CalAct. CalAct is for member agencies in California, transit agencies that are a little bit smaller. So you'll see agencies like my size that operate less than 100 buses in revenue service. We have come together to make some recommendations to CARB about the impact that the innovative clean transit regulation has had on the industry. I can't say too much more than that, but we are working for some relief. While we work towards zero emissions, we want to make sure that the agencies such as myself and other people have the tools that they need and aren't forced to do things that they cannot do without the money that they have, without the money. So that's essentially what we've been working on as an association, working towards some relief through the California Air Resources Board.
Thank you. I'm sorry, it's a bit disconnected, but I'm going through the question. Somebody is asking for the average charging time. So I would say that it depends of the electric buses, but would you be able to tell us like how long does it take for your buses to get fully charged?
Yeah, so we charge up to 90% to battery on the 13 new battery electric buses. And then the other 4 buses, we charge up to 80% on those buses. And we plug them in any time of day, but we don't start charging until after 10 p.m. So 10 p.m., well, let me back up. Between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m., we don't charge. And typically they take anywhere between 4 to 6 hours based on and we never deplete more than 10 to 20%. If we're depleted down to 10%, that means we went over 250 miles.
Okay. And
So between 4 to 6 hours.
4 to 6 hours to charge to fully charge your bus up to 80%. And Joshua, to answer your question, we do have overhead rapid charging. So I invite you to just contact any sales and they will find the best solution for you. We do have, we have a solution for everything you need actually. All right, let me run through the question. Can you tell us a bit more about what did ChargePoint bring to the table that actually set us apart from the other charging providers that you could have worked with or that you could have talked to before making?
Yeah, I would say they're first of all, they're friendly, very friendly, very, very good people to work with. Secondarily, they're knowledgeable. They know their stuff. And then thirdly, very, very reliable. If I call, like I said, if I call them, they're calling me back same day. If I call on Nas is the person that we typically deal with. He's great to call us back. And like I said, they do anything and everything that we've asked of them. We ask them all kinds of crazy questions about data and how to glean data and whether or not this is a good report and things like that. And Nas has been very, very helpful with us. But for me, when I'm thinking about products and I'm thinking about buying a product, I look at number one, the product itself. Is it strong? Is it reliable? And then secondarily, and almost as important to me, is having people who I can call on. And when it comes to ChargePoint, for me, in my experience, I can tell you it's been positive, very, very positive. They've been great to work with, and their support for me has been very, very strong, very, very reliable. And that's the reason why we chose ChargePoint, and that's the reason why we continue to make future plans with ChargePoint.
Thank you. That's what we are trying to do. This is one of our core values. So thank you for telling us that we are doing it the right way. I'm going to go through one last question before I jump to my last slide. Dexter is asking, what is a typical amount of energy usage per day per bus? Do you know this data or?
I would say we've got 686 kilowatt hours. That's the most recent we've been putting those buses out. and they typically come back with anywhere between like 40% and 30%. So 200 to 300 kilowatts, I would guess, somewhere around there. I don't have that information in front of me, but with the ChargePoint platform, I can pull that information. Yeah.
Okay, we actually maybe have one more minute. Jason is asking, why did you choose Gillig over other bus O&Ms?
For me, Gillig, I'm an all Gillig. I guess that's all we operate. That's all we've ever operated. We did have some MCIs; those have trickled out of the fleet, and we've stuck with Gillig. And it's the same notion that I just talked about, right? It's a solid product, but not only that, their support and response is just second to none. Very similar to ChargePoint.
So a good bundle, like a good team.
Good bundle. Good team, and they're right here in our backyard, right? I'm about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours away from their manufacturing facility. So getting parts, if we have to go down there and inspect a bus on the line, it's an hour and a half away, 2 hours away. But it's here in our backyard. They're homegrown in California, and then, like I said, their service and support has been second to none.
And I think the last part of the trifecta, who did install your chargers, and were you happy with them as well?
Yeah, I was happy with them. I can't recall the name of the firm that we chose, but we put that out to bid. We put it out to bid. We had somebody that came in to give us a good price. We did all of the background checks, right? We went through our procurement, our standard procurements, and we identified the best vendor with the money that we had available, and then we chose them. They installed them, and then they've been great. We haven't had any issues with them.
Perfect. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to go through my last slide. Thank you so much, Norman, for being with us and for sharing everything you have shared with us today. We are going to wrap up today's session. We've had so many excellent questions. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate everyone's participation and engagement today. I hope that gave you a clearer view of the EV charging landscape and how customers Norman are staying ahead of the curve with ChargePoints. If you are looking for electrifying your business, you can just click the contact sales button, to get started. We'll have really competent people actually finding you the right solution for you. You can also find additional resources in the meantime in the docs tab, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, with product details, support materials, and more to help you guide your journey. Thank you again, really, Norman, for joining us, and to all of the engagement today, and for being part of the ChargePoint community. We hope to see you soon in our next customer spotlight. And until then, please enjoy the rest of your day, and of course, charge on. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Norman.